Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie trader interview. It's your Cape Crusader Cody, and we're keeping it geekly with our new friend, Kraig Rasmussen. Did I get it right? Close?
Rasmussen. It's all good.
Rasmussen. We're here to break down Odds and Ends, Volume 1 and 2, the current Zoop campaign, and everything in between. Kraig, welcome to the stream. How are you doing today?
Doing well. How are you, Cody?
Not too bad. I am ready to keep it geekly and break down some awesome comics. You are not only the writer, but the artist. And I always get jealous when I see a writer-artist, duo. That, like, not only are you able to create the ideas in your head, you're able to put it on paper. And, man, that is so awesome. Why don't you give us a introduction to how you came into creating comics?
Well, I told this story too many times, so I'll just keep it brief, which is that I met a new friend when I moved to a new neighborhood. And, the first time I went over to his house, walked into his bedroom and saw his closet floor full of short boxes and long boxes just stacked with comics in the heyday of 90s Marvel, just before the Image split and the heyday of Image and all that stuff. So I just jumped right in, pretty much making photocopied comics of my own, total character knockoffs from Wildcats and Spawn. Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane were pretty huge for me back in the day. And there's others as well. But, when I was the young, impressionable kid and loved that, like, bombastic 90s comic style, those were the two that really stood out.
So what was the comic that really drew your attention when you first opened that box?
X-Men.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Claremont,
X-Men's classic.
Uncanny X-Men, Fabian Nicieza, that whole era was just, it's full of fantastic stories that I think are still some of the best X-Men stories, and the artwork kind of redefined things while still having that Jim Lee, Neil Adams influence, so it's kind of consistent with previous, incarnations, John Byrne, things like that. So good stuff.
And experiencing that level of like story writing and art style at a young age, that had to have been like an impactful influence as well.
To this day, I'm still obsessed. So yes, is the answer to that.
So we were talking backstage. You said you've kind of sort of been creating comics here and there since you were 12. Can you give us a little bit about what some of those stories were like when you first started making them?
Horrible, probably. Complete clones, like I said, of things I was reading. There was some element of a techno virus in my Spawn knockoff comic. I can't remember the name of that. I've been trying to think of that since I talked about it on a podcast like 2 weeks ago. I'm like, what was the name of that freaking character? But I ripped off a techno virus directly from X-Men, pretty sure. And that character itself was such a clone of Spawn. So really just, frankly, also 80s and 90s action movies played into my story structure at the time before I fully understood creating characters and interesting, diverse casts and things. And so everything was all about a lone wolf against the world with just his hands, to mete out justice or his powers or whatever. So definitely all cliches and clones. That's pretty much what I'm trying to get at back then, but not now.
So when you first published your first book, what was that story like? What was that book?
Well, I would, probably I want to jump past all that, early stuff and talk about something called Moth Spy, which was a band that my friend Ruben Reveles was in. And the minute that he said our band is called Moth Spy, I was like, that is such a comic book character name. He's like, feel free, kind of thing. So I took a couple of notes from whatever his, idea might be, since that was his band with our friend Uli, and or was it this guy named Hosh? Yeah, it was a different guy. Sorry. Maybe all of the above. I don't know. Not important. Anyway, took a couple of notes from, what they wanted to see as far as the concept, and just ran with this weird genetically engineered moth woman that, wore a page boy hat and had, like me, almost Mickey Mouse gloves and a trench coat, obviously, because she's a spy. So it's, I don't know. I still look at it sometimes and I'm very proud of it. It was like maybe 60 pages. I went way too far, broke my brain trying to complete the project because it was...
Yeah, that's a big one.
Just a comic in general, I think, is quite a commitment. I don't think you realize when, talent notwithstanding, it doesn't really help you when you get into the project organization element of making comics, I totally got lost, had to, kind of find my way back in the middle of the book to finish it as strong as I could. And And then I put it in a bunch of manila envelopes and in red pen wrote top secret on those and handed it to people like Larry Young and who knows who else at an alternative press expo in San Francisco forever ago. I can't even remember what year it was at this point, but almost 20 years ago, I'm guessing, and made a lot of great friends. Honestly, I mean, there's even people involved with odds and ends that I met around that time. So, San Francisco had a great community back then. And, even though it was my first book that I published, I don't always think of it as my first book. I kind of think of, like, I did an anthology called White Rabbit with a bunch of other artists. That seems a little more official. It still catches an eye here or there at conventions, but I can't say enough about that era of indie comics in San Francisco. The Isotope comic shop had just opened. There's Comics Experience. Larry Young was kind of a connector between both of those stores because he wrote heavily about Comics Experience. Once upon a time, even worked there. And the Isotope to this day is still a very, very unique comic book purchasing experience, or fandom experience, I should say, because they, James, the owner of the store, has tons of industry outreach events and, even had Jim Lee there once, but I was already at that point. At that point, I was rebelling against Jim Lee, though. I was like, I don't know, he's overrated. And then now I love his work and I look back on it very fondly. But at the time when I was going to art school, I was like, come on, that's lowbrow. I want give me Barry Windsor Smith and give me Bernie Wrightson and things like that. But anyway, I'm rambling. Sorry.
No, this is the type of content I strive for. Real quick, we have Story Comment over on YouTube stopping in to say good evening. Good evening to you. Thank you for stopping in. We have Guardian Andrew, our good friend over on Twitch, saying hello, legends. So San Francisco, man, that must have been an awesome time to experiencing the indie scene. I loved hearing how you went about your marketing tactics too, putting them in the envelope with top secret. I mean, that is such like an intriguing way to go about getting someone to read your book.
Oh man, I'm still a little embarrassed about that because, it was like 90% there. I think if the book was just a touch better and that I actually had a stamp made that was like the official top secret stamp or whatever, but I just like, lazily scrawled it in red pen. It was the closest, it was an approximation of what I wanted to do. And it was bold for sure, I suppose. So there are elements of it that I think are cool, but I also definitely, it's like, surprised that I made friends the way that I did at that convention is pretty ridiculous. But who knows? I guess when people give me their work because they like me, it's a compliment. So maybe that's just how they looked at it. Look at this crazy kid, So just rustle my hair as I walk off. Anyway. So
you mentioned art school. Was that like comic related, or was that just something that you were enrolled in at the time for the sake of art?
It was for me. I felt like I had the ability to draw comics, but then kind of like even now what happens is when I encounter what's out there in comics, I realize where I'm lacking and how much more I can learn. And, I didn't go to college directly. I took a bunch of, writing classes in community college and things like that, but I had not really committed to any kind of a degree. And it as soon as I printed Moth Spy, I realized that I needed to go to art school. Even like probably halfway through when I had the breakdown, it was when I realized I need to go to art school. Because even though it's like I understand how to do this crazy upshot, looking at this cathedral-esque ceiling during a lizard orgy, weird book. It's like I couldn't achieve the kinds of things that I want to achieve, especially because I'm a huge film nerd. So I have a very kind of cinematic idea of shot structures, and I kind of want to pay it off if I can and get the lighting to really hit and the perspective to really hit. And I that was all there as far as the desire, but my skills were not up to snuff. They were decent. It doesn't look that bad when I look back on it, but I still knew I could do better. And so I went to the Academy of Art in San Francisco, and it was I did all my fine arts foundations so that I, got to sculpt and I got to make oil paintings and, really break through on color. But then I also, started to specialize in illustration specifically in comics, and even had some teachers like John Hebink and Dan Cooney, people who actually are still a big part of the comic book industry today, and, working in collaboration with people I know. And so it's, it really brought it full circle from, going to art school and being that sort of, hoity-toity, rebellious elitist against my comic book roots, brought me back then when I started studying with those guys, and reminded me, Mick Gray wasn't my inking teacher because I was afraid of his reputation as an inker and didn't think I was good enough to take his class. But to this day, he's still one of the great comic book inkers. And, I don't know, it opened my eyes in a lot of ways. And the way that the community is tied together as far as instruction is really cool. And, I'm not humble brag, I guess. I started art coaching recently for comics, and it's bringing me back to that headspace, where I'm like, this is a cool community, and it's fun to be able to pass this stuff on to somebody who's still trying to figure it out. So
that is awesome. Let's I want to talk about that, but first let's put a pin in that and let's get back to talking to a little bit of what we're here to talk about today. Let's go ahead and switch over to our campaign showcase and check out some of your previous work before diving into odds and ends. So right here is the website. Give us a little bit about your website and some of the comics featured on here.
Well, basically, Monkey Gong is my sci-fi publishing label. I mean, other stories as well, but science fiction is my main focus these days. And it's basically intended to be a sci-fi brand. I don't know. I just really respond to deep kind of, what's it like? God, I'm sorry, my brain is breaking because of the amount of effort to launch this campaign. That's try not to look tired day on Keeping It Geekly. And sorry. So, Monkey Gong is really just my focused science fiction publishing brand. It's intended to be a world of science fiction stories that are actually all connected. So I'm trying my best to put up a few stories every 6 months or so, so that it can kind of be clear the different kinds of avenues in science fiction that I'm going to take. So as you mentioned already, behind the scenes, rather, you read Sojourners, the sample, and Sojourners is a space monkey comic. It's a simian space adventure, and it's just essentially what it sounds like. It's really intended to be a space adventure and not be social commentary heavy the way that I like in science fiction. I typically like to have some themes and some messages that resonate. But when I was drawing this comic, I just kept telling myself, come on, it's monkeys in space. Like, it has to be fun. So I just did everything I could to make it a really, bananas space adventure. But there will be some social commentary tied in later. And then Technopolis is the other one that's on there. There is no page by page sample, I don't think. Maybe there is. I can't remember how I've organized things on there, but Technopolis is about a utopia, but it's a dark utopia, possibly becoming a dystopia or on the verge of becoming a dystopia. It's got some mystery built in it. And there's definitely some like family themes that play out in that story.
This art is gorgeous. So, holy
thank you, man.
Crap, man. Like, not saying the art for the other one wasn't gorgeous either. It was gorgeous in its own sense, but this is like visually, like, I just love the detail right here. Like, oh man, this is so awesome. Would you say a lot of this was from the art school that paid off, or because I remember you say you drew a lot, just from looking at comics. So I mean, what would you say kind of paid off more to draw environments like this?
Mobius and Jeff Darrow, and studying the masters. Honestly, I mean, art school was great, and I had Leandro Ng and Joko Budiono as perspective teachers. Although Joko wasn't one of my teachers, he was a rock climbing friend who is to this day one of the greatest masters of perspective, and just pushes it to the edge of the envelope, or push the envelope to the edge of the table, or whatever it is, every single time he draws backgrounds. And even though that's sort of unsustainable when it comes to drawing comics, I do my best to try to lay into backgrounds. And, even with Sojourners, where it's just out in a desert, on this mysterious planet, I still tried, and I, in my opinion, totally fell short of the goal of making the desert environments feel rich, the same way that like Mobius would do in Blueberry comics. I mean, those Western desert landscapes that he does in that are incredible. I just bought a couple of blueberries recently to try and beef up my collection, and I'm just blown away at the life that he builds into those backgrounds. So I just think I'm really fascinated when an artist like Mobius or Jeff Darrow gets away with the level of detail they get away with. It's got to be just so much work, but somehow they're fast enough to put out enough work for us to enjoy it on the regular, so I'm just pushing towards that. And, luckily recently I'm started to get a lot faster. So it is paying off. And, I give a lot of credit to perspective as a science. It's, once you learn perspective and you can wrap your brain around it, you can peel away a lot of the effort, all the measuring and all the stuff that seems really prohibitive from the outside and scary. Once you just kind of understand putting the horizon line and your center of interest kind of in line with what you're trying to do with the storytelling, it all kind of comes together, and then you can just kind of peel away, like I said, any real need to measure, as long as you just have a pretty solid idea of, what that measurement would be, just to the eye. Basically what I'm saying is I hate to use a ruler, but sometimes I have to.
You also have a The Dead Remember, a short concept comic for an upcoming film as well.
How dare you? So this is actually one of the few comics I'm not going to be including in odds and ends, largely because I couldn't really talk the producer of this film into the clearance to print the artwork any other way. So, but you can probably find.
Are we allowed to check out the interiors, or is that a no-go?
Yeah, go for it. It's. I will tell you this right now. I drew and inked and colored all 3 of these pages in 3 days. So not the cover, but just these pages. And I took the color out because I think the black and white looks a lot better, standing on its own than the colors I did at the time. And it's basically a skinwalker story. So it's a Native American, lore based suspense horror tale set in the mountains of Arizona, because it's intended to be shot in Arizona as a film. And I had done all this concept art for it and done this, hand-drawn movie poster, which is the cover that you showed. And just kind of on a whim said, hey, what would you think about me just kind of, not necessarily adapting an element from the script, but just kind of doing this little offshoot that sort of fits within what's happening in the story. And he's like, go for it, man. So that turned into something that we packed into this lookbook that we were already building. That's kind of what it was for.
Man, I love, this scene in particular. We have these two hugging. Looks like a moment of peace, and then you just get that glimpse of the skinwalker just dangling off the cliff right there. So awesome. It's remarkable you did that in 3 days too.
Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how fast I did that. And I wish it was a little tighter in some places, but I'm still pretty happy with the way it turned out.
That is
I do like the main characters a lot. I think I want to be better at the skinwalkers, and I actually redrew this page as a widescreen version. I basically broke all the pages in half and made it into took the 3-page comic and turned it into a 5-page comic.
No, that's awesome. Real quick, anyone that is watching, sorry. Anyone that's watching, I put the link in chat, but right here it is. Again, be sure to check this out. If you're unable to buy anything, that's okay. Simply just sharing this on Facebook, Twitter, or anywhere you can. Getting the word of mouth out on this website is what we're trying to do today, and the Zoop campaign, so stay tuned for that. And word of mouth is 100% free, so share away, please. Craig, sorry to interrupt.
No worries. I was going to say, if you wanted to really quick, I don't know how long we're going to run, but if you want to go to thedeadremember.com, you can actually look at the widescreen version of that page and the colors. I shouldn't be doing this because, like I said, I'm not 100% happy with the colors, but hey, let's see how it turns out.
So deadremember.com did not pop up.
The Dead Remember, thedeadremember.com.
Boom. Oh, okay. Here we go. Hey, we have George over on YouTube stopping in, saying, Cody, what's up, man? Good evening, Craig. Welcome to the stream, George. How you doing?
Hi there, George. Toasting you with my coffee.
All right. So we are at the Dead Remember. Go ahead and take the wheel. Tell me where you want to
go. Just click the story. So this will give you the widescreen remix of the comic.
Okay.
And the colors are a little washed out. I've recently remastered them. We're doing a new edition of the lookbook, which was stalled out pretty harshly by COVID. So it is one of the things that I'm trying to get back to coming out of that winter time there. But I tried to play with, the boldness of the color if I could. But
I love the detail in the retinas too. Like when they were screaming for Alyssa. In the glasses, you seen there's little detail in the eyes. That was awesome. These skinwalkers look gruesome too in color too. Just I can't tell which one's more gruesome in black and white or in this color right here.
Thank you. Yeah, they're their skin is kind of dead. They're like over 100 years old. So basically, we wanted it to feel like leather.
No, that is awesome. So let's go ahead and talk about what we're mainly here to talk about, and that is Odds and Ends books 1 and 2, currently at $1,342 of a $6,000 goal, with 16 supporters. Oh, do I need?
$1,555.
Let's go.
$1,555. Yeah. So,
Oh, dude, let's go. Let's go. That is awesome. That just recently happened. Everyone that is watching, right here is the link. Be sure to check this out with us. If you're able to back, please feel free to back. This is going to be an awesome book. It'll look beautiful on your shelf. If you're unable to, once again, just put this on Facebook, Twitter, anywhere you can. Word of mouth is 100% free. So $1,555. How are you feeling, man? You just launched this, right?
Day one, man. I'm feeling pretty good about it. Yeah, I had to, I was up really late getting the video all edited and dialed out and getting, just everything ready for today. So I went to bed kind of sweating that I wasn't going to be just like, as soon as it launched at 8 a.m., I wasn't going to be sharing it and, just out there behind it. And I woke up around, 12:30 and pulled up my phone and was like, hello, we're already over $1,000. That's absolutely the opposite of what I was expecting. I really expected crickets. So this is an awesome first day. I mean, by all accounts, for a lot of Kickstarters or any other kind of crowdfunding campaign like Zoop, it's a nice surprise. I really hope we can keep it going.
So have you done?
And I just want to, sorry.
No,
please.
you go ahead.
No. All right. Well, I was going to shill for 1 second because we've already talked about Technopolis and Sojourners. Everything is available in a bundle. So if you just want to scroll down a little bit, you can get anything that you have heard talked about in this, except for the Dead Remember, including my art book and stuff. So there you go, right there. So anyway, that was all I was going to say. There's a $100 bundle where you get both odds and ends. That's 200 pages of comics plus 29 pages of Sojourners, 20 pages of Technopolis, and 50 pages of science fiction art in Furthest Reaches. Okay. I'm done selling. I'm sorry.
No, we listen. We are here to sell. That is the main purpose of this. I just like to paint a little bit of a picture of who you are and kind of your backstory before we do so. Now, I want to ask: have you done a lot of campaigns before? Like, what's your experience right now with Zoop? Like, how are you feeling?
This is my first crowdfunding campaign. I love these guys. Honestly, they've really gone out of their way, left and right, to make this easy for me. And there are multiple ways that it's flexible and just feels so much more supportive than Kickstarter. And I don't really want to jump into all the specifics and talk about one platform versus the other. I'll just say those two things: that they're extremely supportive and extremely flexible. Eric and Jordan, the two who run this company, and I never thought that knowing somebody, because I just know Jordan from, Comic-Con over the last 10 years, I never thought that would parlay into something like this, even though if I knew anything about the comic book industry and the community, I would have actually realized something like this is probably bound to happen. But it's great. I am super happy with this. I mean, I wouldn't be talking to you without their help getting me, in your view. So, I can't say enough nice things about this. I feel like there's room for flexibility throughout the campaign. I feel like we're going to maybe do some gymnastics of some kind, marketing wise, and as far as add-ons and bonuses and things like that. And then if we can hit the stretch goals, we're still having conversations about how those might work and trying to figure out how to make things as exciting as possible. So this is a killer platform. I love that it's comics only, and I love being able to just see these two walking around at conventions and talking to all the people that I already knew who had already done Zoop campaigns, and everybody speaks very highly of them. So I recommend this platform. No salt on Kickstarter at all. It's a great idea, crowdfunding, but they just don't have the monopoly on it, thankfully.
That is so. And big shout out to Jordan for setting this up. I always appreciate getting awesome guests on the show. George over on YouTube said the colors look sick, man. Awesome stuff. Yeah, I love the colors. Can you give us a little bit about what Odds and Ends is about?
So Odds and Ends is a short story anthology of tales that I call lost and found because they were, for one reason or another. As you see, I do film pitch related comics, and I've done a few of those now. Two of them are actually going to be in the new edition of Odds and Ends. One of them is in the original edition. It's a King David story called Kingdom of David, written by Scott Rickles, who, a little trivia for you, actually is one of the writers on that Taika Waititi, Daniel Kraig vodka video where Daniel Kraig was dancing around. It came out around the holidays. So my collaborator worked on a pretty visible campaign for
that is pretty vodka. Cool. That is pretty cool.
I was stoked when he told me, "Hey, I just worked on this little thing or whatever." And I was like, "You mean this little thing that everybody was talking about for like 6 weeks?" Yeah. So it's always cool when that kind of stuff happens. I mean, that's one of the best things about this type of work is that it's not about fame. I mean, I've been thinking about the toxic dream of fame a lot lately, because I think it actually sabotaged me thinking, I was going to be discovered one way or another, because it happens. But discovery usually arrives when you're ready. And it's sort of like opportunity meeting preparation, and thinking of it in terms of like someone's going to see my value and discover, my star quality or whatever is a bunch of bullshit or whatever. But the flip side of that is actually that this is a public job. Like writing things for TV is a public job, and even what you do is a public job. These are venues where you're just out in front of people. It's not about fame. It's about being a visible part of the community. And I just kind of love how I get to see friends of mine working on stuff that makes an impact pop culture wise, like the Heidi Klum worm outfit. I have a friend who was one of the sculptors who worked on that, and just knowing these little tiny things is really hilarious, because it's just, I don't know, you kind of see how things are woven together a little bit in this really positive way. So
anyway, it is an awesome feeling seeing your friends succeed in those fields, and because it makes the dream like achievable, right? Or it makes it like you can grasp it. It's attainable. No, that's awesome.
About doing things. You just have to do a thing, complete it, get it out there, and push it. Anyway, I totally tangented off of your question. I hate answering questions, Cody. No, but so Odds and Ends was this collection that I did in 2017. I actually have the original edition right here.
Oh, hold on 1 second. We'll go ahead and
yeah, so let me see how to best. There we go. So it was about 100 pages of comic book content. I only printed 50 of them, and it had a lot of cool stuff in it, like this cover character here, Dr. Cotton Hickox. Oops. Left and right, so hard for me on here. It's a time travel story. You can see this thing's falling apart because it's the last. Shit. Hang on, I don't know how to do this. So it's got ancient China here. So
I love the way you do your landscapes too. They're so like huge and like it just expansive. It's gorgeous.
Thank you, man. I appreciate the compliments, big time. Again, I have to credit both Mobius and honestly film. Those are the two things that I really have to credit. Here's the King David story that I was talking about.
Oh, that's awesome too. I love like the lack of color, and then when there is color, it's so impactful too.
Thank you. Digital color is hard. I don't like stepping on the line work, and I think digital color has sort of a habit of stepping on line work and kind of just making it hard to see the drawing. And I think there's also a lot of special effects on top of comic book art these days that makes it kind of hides the line work. And I'm not really a fan of that style of comic book coloring. So I'm very picky about my colors. I'm very washy. I'd like it to be kind of subdued if I can. Anyway, tangent again, I apologize. But so essentially this is a collection of science fiction stories and other concepts, like Zen Patriot. Check it out. Actually, let's do this real quick.
Oh, that is awesome. So you do this all traditionally then?
Yeah, the colors are still digital, but I until recently I did not get super comfortable with digital colors. Here, that's probably better.
That's so cool. I love surfing on a freaking American surfboard.
So he's a disgraced CIA agent who's seen the light about the American dream, and still loves America, but is trying to do the right thing with that dream. So anyway, it just gives you a little bit of an idea. There's the Cotton Hickox story you saw that's in pencil, and there's a couple other pages in pencil as well. But essentially, once I went to look at reprinting this book, I realized I had 100 more pages, and I said, I could just do 2 volumes of this. But the caveat to that is that I'm not going to print anything in pencil this time, and basically sitting down to ink and remaster a bunch of old stuff, which is a really interesting experience. I'm being pretty ruthless, and it's pretty nice because it's kind of allowing the original concept or intention of those pieces to come alive and not be hamstrung by the fact that I drew it when I was 15 years younger than I am now or whatever. And 15 years is probably the outside age of anything, because it's all stuff that was basically done within the context of art school and out and after everything after that. So
what do you mean by being ruthless? Like not like touching up or redrawing certain things, or?
Yes, I am touching up and redrawing a lot of stuff. I'm not
Oh,
redrawing any full pages. I'm just
gotcha.
basically looking at the anatomy because basically the one thing that works in everything that I'm including is the storytelling. I haven't had to redraw a single, beat in a comic. I haven't had to replace a panel so that the storytelling actually works. But it's just the actual drawing is a little rough, and in some cases it's because I did it for a school assignment in one of
Hmm.
my comics classes, and because I was kind of an asshole, just did it overnight, did it the
Hmm.
last minute, totally procrastinated like a lot of artists, I guess. But not to judge, but I'm self-judging, I guess. Yeah, so I just would, I rushed things and maybe just wasn't quite the illustrator that I am now. And I'm having a good time going back and kind of pushing everything up across the line. And I think the results are going to be really cool. So I
I
am,
gotcha.
spending the next couple of months doing that. There's a little bit of a lag time on delivery just because I want this to be really special, and I think it's
Hmm.
going to be worth it.
Yeah, my apologies. I misunderstood what you meant by ruthless on there. Sorry. I thought in my head I thought you meant you were just touching up what you needed to, and then that was it. So real quick, let's
Yeah.
go back to a little bit of selling though. We have Odds and End Volume 1 and 2 PDF. You can get that for $20. The physical early bird special at 45 for both 1 and 2 at 100 pages each. That is such a phenomenal price. We have $55. You get a signed copy. Is that both of them signed?
hmm
Cool. And at 80, we get the early bird remarked. So what's this remarked going to look like?
I'm going to do a doodle of some kind inside.
No, that's
It's
going to
pretty
be
much that
cool.
simple. I'll pick a character of mine, or pick a character out of that
Hmm.
individual volume or whatever, and yeah, I don't know. It's not a thing that I've done for a while. I was doing it in the early edition or the first edition back in 2017, but I haven't done it. I pretty much just sign books now because it is, if you're actually busy at a convention, which is where I've primarily been signing for the last, or selling rather, for the last year. I'm just too busy. I don't really.
Hmm.
I'm not Charlie Adlard where I can just sit there and crank out an amazing drawing in like 4 minutes. I always feel like I'm making people wait forever when I'm drawing at conventions. So I just kind of got out of the habit, and so doing this is a great excuse. It's like, yeah, I can sit down. I got a couple of months. I told them it's going to be June at the earliest when I deliver this. So if I'm delivering it to you in the summertime, it'll I'll make sure that it's worth the wait by adding a cute little drawing of some kind or something epic, maybe. You never
Oh,
know.
that's cool.
The thing about this, you could get in the zone, and then the drawing just takes
Hmm.
takes over for you and has a life of its own. So
And then, of course, we have the Monkey Gong book bundle special, at early bird special at 100. At 135, the book bundle plus pinups. The retail bundle at 125, you get 5 copies of Volume 1 and 2. And then, yeah, I mean, a lot of awesome tiers here. Some add-ons as well. Everyone watching right here is the link once again. Please feel free to bag if you're unable to. Simply sharing this wherever you can would be awesome. Word of mouth is 100% free, and trying to get as many eyes on this campaign as possible is what we are trying to do. So, man, what an awesome campaign. Oh, is this Breaking Bad?
that is just an art example,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, but it's actually breaking bread. So he's got the crown of thorns and a stigmata, and I stole the pose from Jesus, and
I love it.
I just wasn't into actually using other people's likenesses to make money, so I completely bailed on that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Can I share something here?
Yeah, go ahead.
So for Sojourners, right here, and Technopolis as well. God, the left right. I'm never going to get used to the left right. I'm doing sketch covers, so I
Oh,
thought I
those are
would
cool.
just show this.
And I love how that the logo looks like against it as well.
Thank you. I can hear the owner of Comics Experience in San Francisco screaming because the logo's at the bottom of the cover. He hates that. Love you, Brian. Just kidding. I mean, not kidding. You totally hate that, but I'm not making fun. So anyway, I just thought I would share that because that's one of the add-ons. Is you can get a sketch cover edition, and there's also some bundles as well. So good stuff.
No, I appreciate
Having
that
a
too.
lot of fun.
It's always awesome kind of seeing the product physically too. So
Yeah, some
here
of some of
it.
the stuff I already actually have in my hands. I mean, that's why I've
Mhm.
put those in as add-ons, because I've got a good stock and I've got a couple of good local printers, and I'm always printing 50 copies for this or that. So always got plenty. Oh, there's a preview of the original one. So yeah, I
Mhm.
uploaded the PDF for the original one, so they put some of the pages in there.
So what we'll do is scan through this, and then we will begin wrapping things up. Man, this has been such an awesome. I am always so jealous because I am not that good at art. So whenever I can get lost in it, I always cherish it, man.
Thank you very much. Dude, you're so kind, man. I'm really appreciating all the kind words that you have about my work.
Well, see, like everyone thinks when I interview, like, it's for me. I love seeing these books. I love seeing these interiors. I love getting to scratch the creative mind, getting to learn like how people work, man. It's a treat, really.
Scroll down. Just thank you. So yeah, I just realized one of my favorite pieces of original art already sold. So these are originals here that are available as add-ons, and you can select from these to take one home as part of the package.
This is gorgeous. I love, like, it's like trippy almost, like right here. Like I love, like, it's almost like an outer space with like a tree just like floating in space. Like this is such an awesome concept. And then like the overgrown like cityscape, like, man. And then that's your perspective views too are just really like showcased in these.
Thank you. Yeah. Like I said, I'm kind of obsessed with perspective. Once you get it working, it just like it starts to pay off so hard on your work that you're kind of like, okay, yeah, what can we do with this? It's really, sold that one too. Awesome.
And I
Right.
love seeing like just mind bending concepts too, like how the Eiffel, tower right here is just like super huge, and then they're on like some sort of rocket power sled, like with eating utensils and a Santa hat and a pan. Like this is awesome. There's Santa right there. I just noticed.
It's a rocket powered Christmas tree.
That's so cool. And then here's some of the stretch goals. I mean, do you have any idea of what you're aiming for? Are you not able to talk about that?
I can talk about it. I mean, the second stretch goal you'll see there is make all 200 pages full color. So that will either, provide me some a break from freelance work so that I have the time to color it myself, or hire a colorist, or maybe a combination of the two.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why that's in there. There's a couple of add-ons that I want to do, like a sticker pack, things like that. I don't really know as far as some of the extra things though, because I really would love to do like a 2022 sketchbook, but it'd have to be the type of thing where I make so much on the campaign that I can actually just add that to everybody's pack, and send it out. So, I mean, I'd love to do it because there's some really fun stuff that I did over the last year. It was a fairly prolific year as far as like actually finished pen and ink. I feel like I spend so much time just doing stuff in pencil for sketch warm-ups and all this stuff that sometimes when I get to the end of a year, like last year, I'm like, wow, I actually really like did a lot of work last year. So it's pretty gratifying. I'd love to be able to put that in a book. And that one will be all pen and ink, no pencil. Well, maybe a couple pencil character spreads, but just for funsies.
That is awesome. And then right here is the timeline, of course. So once again, we are going to share this link in chat. Guys, feel free to back. If you're unable to back, that's okay. Simply putting that anywhere you can. Twitter, Facebook, anywhere you can put a social media link. Word of mouth is 100% free. We would greatly appreciate it. Kraig, after going through the Zoop campaign and kind of breaking it down in depth, what would you like to say to anyone who might be on the fence about backing?
Well, I think that this is a really unique package of goods because it's not just one book, it's actually two books at the baseline. Just there's no option to get one of the odds and ends, you can only get two. And I think as far as an anthology reading experience, it's unified by it being all one artist, but it's also unified by the concepts of science fiction, a little bit of humor, and historical fiction as well. But also, I mean, I really want this to kind of be the entry point for Monkey Gong as a publishing label.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, oh great, I have neighbors who have Harleys, so you're gonna have to excuse the noise for a second here. We'll just do a quick countdown.
And in post-production, I can actually edit this part out, so that's not a big deal.
That's all right. Whoever saw it live will hopefully get a kick out of that. So anyway, I think my ethos is very visible as far as, learning the science fiction genre and a lot of the things that are important to me. I just think it's a unique campaign in my approach to it. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but you asked, why is this different? Why is this worth backing? But also I think some of the add-ons like the sketch covers and such, I can hook you up with some nice stuff. It's going to be a good science fiction experience. If you're a fan of science fiction, it's going to be a very rich experience because a lot of my vision is poured into all of these, put together, especially if you buy one of the packages. So bundles. We call them bundles anyway.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm terrible at answering that question. I totally floundered trying to answer it last week somewhere as well. Um, I'm just really proud of this work, and I think it's a really unique anthology. And you can't get it any other way unless there's leftovers from this campaign. But why be that person? Why not make it special and
Get it while it's
remark
hot
it for you and all that stuff? Exactly. So that's
So
pretty much all I have to say about that.
you mentioned earlier, we put a pin in it. Let's go ahead and pull it. About being like a comic coach. Can you give us a little bit about that? And if you have like a site or anything to advertise, feel free to drop it too.
Yeah, it's still just a one-on-one thing, so I'm not advertising it online. I haven't figured out how to scale it up. It's really a thing that to me is, a handful of conversations, and then we sit around and we draw together. It just becomes comics camp. That's kind of my approach to it, because the best way to learn comics is to make comics, So
Mhm.
My mentee and I, my Padawan learner and I, are making a comic right now that we just sort of stumbled into, which has a wizard and these weird cat creatures that are sort of like the Kudamu in Princess
Mhm.
Mononoke, the Forest Spirits. It's a little bit like of that vibe to it. And they're very into manga. And so that's kind of a new avenue for me. I think up until very recently, I would just be like, "Yo, get your head out of manga. It's not the only way to make comics." I'm not the angry get off my lawn manga guy, but I have been. I will fully admit it. But there's some great manga out there. I mean, Osamu Tezuka, Masamune Shiro, Katsuhiro Otomo, Junji Ito. There's a bunch of people who are just like, it's eye popping when you look at it, and it's in its raw form as manga, not the the sort of slightly regurgitated anime version of some manga. Like obviously Akira is a great film, and Ghost in the Shell is a great film, but a lot of the offshoots and the shows that are inspired by that, it's very rote. It's very much a system. It's something that you can crank out quickly, and the artwork doesn't have enough personality for me personally.
Mhm.
But I think that every set of eyes and every brain is a little bit different, especially when you're younger and you haven't seen what else is out there. And so as far as being a coach, it's my job to just continually expose this person to the huge variety of styles of making comics and the just immense, amazing talent that's in the world. And it's really funny to drop something in front of this person and be like, so here's, Barry Windsor Smith or something. And it's just the quickest flip. And they're like, yeah. And they want to move on to the stuff that's more, in the zone of manga. Maybe European comics are a little more impressive because Mobius can tend towards being a little cartoony sometimes. And so every once in a while, I definitely, get one in there where I'm like, yes, it was a success. Like they walked out of the meeting enjoying that work, and took something home and really liked it. And, I bought them a copy of Blankets by Craig Thompson for Christmas. And, it's just a really interesting experience to talk with someone about comics as a medium. I have a great friend in illustrator Mike Dubish. Shout out to Forbidden Futures, his publication. He is an incredibly talented painter and comics artist, and he lived here in Phoenix at the same time as me for about 5 years, and we just hung out multiple times a week and just had these super long, dense conversations, did a handful of podcasts together, breaking down Mobius top 10 tips for drawing comics or whatever. I loved doing that. My first podcast, Storycraft, where I got, went to Bill Stout's studio and got to hang out with the guy, he was one of the first artists outside of Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane, where I was like, who's this Bill Stout guy? These dinosaurs are nuts. I just started realizing, that you could really just push the envelope if you're really willing to fall into a drawing. And, that's the kind of stuff that I really want to share as an art coach, as a comics coach, but, also just getting through the mechanics of comics storytelling over and over and just beating him into my head again is good, because I tend towards being too cinematic, and sometimes I have to remind myself that in comics the cuts are different, the scene transitions are different. You can do a lot of really insane things with page design that obviously, unless you're making Scott Pilgrim and you're Edgar Wright, you can't really do it with film.
You don't have to worry about the restrictions of a
yeah.
camera and stuff, right?
Yeah, and there's something to be said for doing it as originally as possible, which goes back to kind of why I like some of this stuff in Odds and Ends, because it's all this. I was young and I didn't know what rules I was breaking at the time, but now I'm looking at it, I'm like, kind of like that, it's like a bold choice to try and do something in that way and tell the story in that way. And so those are the kind of things I'm just trying to translate. And I guess, like, as far as if you're interested in art coaching, for comics specifically, you can always contact me, Kraig at Monkey Gong, Kraig with a K. You can just reach out to me in DMs or whatever on Instagram. I mean, I'm definitely open to taking on more Padawan learners as the I hate the word mentee for some reason. It just makes me think of manatees and, cold water whales or warm water whales. Where are they from? Anyway, let's move on. It's not a biology podcast.
No, hey, that gives us the perfect segue. We're getting ready to wrap things up. We have El Crudo over on YouTube. Stopping in and say what up. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for stopping in. Now, with you, man, you have so much passion for this too, so that I think this question is going to be a perfect one for you. I always end this podcast on a really strong note where I ask for a piece of advice for anyone who might be new listening. So for anyone who is looking to become an artist, maybe looking to take their first steps into it, what piece of advice would you offer them to kind of help them along the way?
Well, let's just say that I'm going to take as a preconceived notion that this person is dedicating themselves to the skills of the craft, so that we're not talking specifically about the skills. It's more about mindset, because mindset is super duper important. And I think that it's really important to believe in yourself and in your vision, because that is what is uniquely you. Like, that stuff that just rolls around in your head. There's a reason that Monkey Gong is the name of my business, because to me, it's like the primal scream, the primal alarm clock, I always say. And learning to listen to that and learning to trust that, that's the running dialogue or monologue in my brain. That's where a lot of the stuff that's really important to me, that my brain just keeps chewing on about society or people, that's where all that stuff lives. And I think everybody has that to some extent. And I think we all get into the zone of questioning, what would people think of this? Is this right? Am I doing this right? Is this the way it's done? And it's like, who cares? Is this what you're experiencing in your consciousness worth communicating? And if it is, then how best can you communicate that the way that's unique to you? You just have to trust yourself. That's honestly, that's on the forefront of my brain, because I have a hard time with my own artistic confidence all the time. It's like plagued me for years. And I think it's kept me out of the game a little bit, to be honest, brutally honest. There's probably 5 years at least where I just was sitting back, like I said, that toxic, desire to be discovered, as opposed to just being willing to do the work. Just believe in what you're doing, do the work, finish that thing, and get it out in the world. It's probably the best piece of advice I can give.
My biggest downfall is I'm like too much of a perfectionist when it comes to art. Like, I want it, and I know it is like a mountain. You make your steps up the mountain till you hit the peak, and then you make another mountain. But like, I do those first couple steps, I'm like, dude, this looks like garbage. I'm done. Like,
well, remember what I said about being ruthless? Like, if you really want your work to improve, you kind of have to be a little bit ruthless too. That would be a secondary piece of the kill your darlings advice. It's like, oh, I really like that part of that drawing. It's like, well, guess what? In drawing, you can just trace that part that you like over and start over, or you can take another crack at it, and who knows, maybe you'll even draw it better the second time. Because they always say, like, if you're trying to draw a likeness, for instance, you draw from the photo, then you draw the drawing, then you draw the drawing of a drawing. You kind of like, the further you get away from it to make it your own, the better it kind of gets, and it'll take its shape. I'm sure I got that, that adage wrong, but I don't know. To me, it's like, once you really learn a thing, it just comes out even better. And usually the second time, if you're willing to put in the effort and not kind of feel the sandbags of like, oh, I got to redraw that. Like, that's just dead weight. Like, if you can get rid of that and just kind of, put the passion into it and say, I really want to achieve this. I'm a huge perfectionist too. I don't know if you can tell, but like, I am a deadly perfectionist. And that's the other thing that has hampered my confidence, I think, because I'm like, it's just not, because I'm looking at people like Jeff Darrow. People, they're just these incredible technicians, whereas, not that he's not a technician, but you should look at Mignola. Mike Mignola keeps it simple, but he comes away with this art. I mean, it is, he's one of the few comic book artists where you can point to, and it's not just like, oh, that's great illustration. It's like a work of art. He makes these just simple things seem so dense and alive and loose. And like that is a skill that is just, I don't even know if you can teach that in a way. You have to almost innately be able to do that.
The beauty of it is, though, we only get to see the pages that he kept. We don't get to see the thousands he threw away in an effort to get there,
Yeah, that's true.
Kraig, thank you so much for the awesome advice. Everyone watching, here is the link. Check it out one more time. Tomorrow's New Comic Book Day. Treat yourself. We have El Crudo in the chat, hashtag Monkey Gong. He actually has a book out about orangutans as well. So we got a little bit of the monkey hype in the chat. With that being said, guys,
Army, where you at?
it is time for us to wrap up. I hope you have a lovely Tuesday night, but most importantly, keep it geekly.